Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, where we bring you the latest and most exciting sports news every single day. Whether it's breaking updates, in-depth analysis, or just some good old-fashioned speculation about the Detroit Lions, you're always in the right place with us. Now, today, we have a story that's buzzing all over the Lions community, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Because while the upcoming NFL draft might not see Detroit grabbing one of the top marquee names, there's a growing belief that this could still turn out to be a perfect draft for our Motor City Lions. But how exactly could that happen? And why are so many analysts calling this defensive draft class a once-in-a-decade opportunity? Well, let's dive into it, because things are starting to get really interesting. First things first, mark your calendars because the 2025 NFL Draft is just around the corner, kicking off Thursday, April 24th, and running through Saturday, April 26th. The venue? None other than right outside the legendary Lambeau Field in Green Bay. And yes, that's enemy territory, but maybe that's just poetic, right? Maybe the Lions' next big leap begins right in the backyard of one of their biggest rivals. The draft will be broadcast live on NFL Network, NFL Plus, ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPN Deportes, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Thursday. And don't worry, rounds 2 through 7 will have full coverage as well across these platforms, so there's no excuse to miss out on a single pick. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Detroit doesn't have one of those ultra-high first-round picks this year. And while that might disappoint some fans at first glance, here's where the story gets fascinating. Because according to multiple insiders, this specific draft class plays right into the Lions' hands. Let's talk about the prospects for a moment. Sure, there's a lot of hype around names like Miami QB Cam Ward, Colorado's dynamic duo Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, Penn State's disruptive pass rusher Abdul Carter, and Boise State's powerful RB Ashton Jandy. Those are big-time talents, no doubt. But here's the thing, the Lions don't need a quarterback. They don't necessarily need another running back or wide receiver either. What they do need is depth and star power on the defensive side of the ball. And guess what? That's exactly where this draft is stacked. NFL analyst Marcus Mosher from the 33rd team dropped a bombshell on April 3rd, predicting that the real strength of this 2025 draft is the defensive line, particularly the pass rushers. He boldly stated that at least 10 pass rushers could be off the board by the end of day one. 10. And even more exciting, he emphasized that the depth doesn't just dry up after the first round. In fact, Mosher said this could be the deepest class of defensive line talent in recent memory, especially for day 2 selections. Could this mean the Lions are in the perfect position to snag a future star without needing a top 10 pick? Is it possible that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell could find a next big defensive playmaker somewhere in the second or even third round? Fans are wondering if this could be the beginning of a defensive revolution in Detroit, one built not on splashy headlines, but on gritty, relentless talent across the board. Think about it. The Lions have already laid a rock-solid foundation with young stars like Aiden Hutchinson. But imagine adding another dynamic pass rusher to that mix, someone who could create chaos on the other side of the line. Someone who could force offenses to pick their poison, double hutch and leave the rookie to feast, or try to go one-on-one and risk being overwhelmed. That's the kind of strategic advantage that could change games and seasons. And let's not forget the context here. As Max Damara pointed out in a recent article for Fansided on April 6th, the Lions didn't prioritize signing new edge rushers in free agency. Instead, they chose to re-sign Marcus Davenport, banking on a potential comeback season for him in 2025. It's a calculated move, but it also signals that Detroit knows they need insurance, a young, hungry player ready to step up if injuries strike again. Damara even warned fans, don't be surprised if the Lions take a flyer on not just one, but maybe even 2 pass rushers across the second and third rounds. Especially if this defensive class is as loaded as experts like Mosher are predicting. And guys, if we dig into the numbers, it gets even more exciting. In the last 5 NFL drafts, only twice have more than 8 pass rushers been selected in the first round. If this year's projection holds true, we could witness a historic night where nearly a third of the first round is made up of defensive line talent. That would be unprecedented, and it would create incredible value for teams like the Lions who are smart enough to capitalize on it. Some insiders even believe that by the time the Lions are on the clock, there could still be first-round caliber edge rushers slipping into the early second round, simply because the supply is so high. Could this be Detroit's golden opportunity to grab a player like Jared Verse out of Florida State or Chop Robinson from Penn State, depending on how things shake out? Is it possible that Brad Holmes is already eyeing a few under-the-radar gems who might develop into the next Pro Bowl terror off the edge? And here's something even more fascinating. Historically, when the Lions have drafted for defense in the second and third rounds, they've often struck gold. Just look back at players like DeAndre Levy and Stephen Tulloch, who became cornerstone pieces without ever having first-round hype. There's a strong tradition here of finding defensive leaders later in the draft, and it feels like that tradition is about to continue. Another important factor to consider is team chemistry. Drafting a young defensive player who fits the Lions' gritty, hard-nosed culture could do more than just improve the roster on paper. It could ignite an even deeper bond within the locker room. Players like Hutchinson, Alan McNeil, and Brian Branch have already laid the foundation for a defense that's all about heart and hustle. Bringing in new blood with that same mentality could elevate the entire unit to another level. And let's talk about Brad Holmes for a second. His vision for this team has always been about building from the trenches outward, starting with offensive and defensive line dominance. He's not chasing flashy names. He's chasing players who love football, who live and breathe it, and who bring relentless energy every single snap. If you look closely, you can see the blueprint taking shape, and this draft could be the final piece of that puzzle. There's also the broader picture. With the NFC landscape shifting, aging stars like Aaron Rodgers leaving the conference, teams like the 49ers and Eagles showing cracks, the window for the Lions to seize control is opening wider than ever before. Building an elite defense now doesn't just help for 2025, it sets Detroit up to dominate the NFC for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even longer. And for us fans, after so many years of heartbreak, doesn't it just feel different this time? There's a new energy, a new belief. It's not just hope anymore, it's confidence. Confidence that this team is being built the right way, piece by piece, with patience and vision. Of course, there's always uncertainty. Draft picks are never a sure thing. But given the Lions' recent track record under Holmes, hitting on players like Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's every reason to believe that this front office knows exactly what it's doing. Still, it leaves us with some tantalizing questions. Could this be the year Detroit finally builds a defense as fearsome as its offense? Are we about to witness the Lions not just sustain success, but dominate the NFC North for years to come? Is this the draft that historians might one day look back on and say, this is when the Lions truly arrived? But what do you think about all of this? Are you excited about the possibility of Detroit loading up on defensive stars? Or do you think the Lions should still consider adding another weapon for Jared Goff in the offense just to be safe? Personally, I am beyond pumped about what's about to unfold. I trust Brad Holmes, I trust Dan Campbell, and I feel like the Lions are on the verge of something really, really special. And honestly, I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments below, so don't hold back. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Lions News Fan Report, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We got a ton of incredible content coming your way as the draft approaches, and you won't want to miss a second of it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and as always, go Lions!